Hello, boys and girls, nuts of all ages. Today is New Year's Day 2021. Happy New Year. I certainly hope it's going to be a better one than 2020 was. If you are looking back on this years from now, decades from now, hopefully humanity has survived the zombie apocalypse that was 2020. Guys, it's been a wild ride. It's been a crazy year. Hopefully 2021 will see things settling down a little bit in terms of pandemic, etc. But hey, you never know. So I will appreciate you doing this one with me. Do me a favor, throw a like and a subscription on this video. I sure do appreciate the time you take to do that. And in the meantime, this is a tightly focused video, and we've got viewer mail. So I want to talk to you today about Antoine Tremblay. Monsieur Antoine Tremblay, a big fan of this channel, so shout out to you, monsieur. And hey, look, let's get into the meat and potatoes of what he has to say or ask. He's got a problem with Rolex box and papers. Oh, wait, but before I read you about that, let's go ahead and get the quick fist watch check out of the way. And here she is. Boop. It is guys, this is the watch that all of you said that I was going to flip like 60 days after I got it. And I don't know how long ago that was. Must be like a year and a half. The Grand Seiko SPG 229, the Grand Seiko diver. I'll tell you what, I'll make you a sort of like a catch-up video on the owner experience like 2 years later on this watch before too long. But I digress. Let's jump right into the topic at hand, which is the Rolex box and papers problem that Antoine is having. Reading from my phone email. Hey, Mark, my name is Antoine. I am from the French-speaking part of Canada, so pardon my English. I am newly subscribed to your YouTube channel, and I really enjoy your videos. Why, thank you, sir. I recently watched your video entitled How to Get New Box and Papers for a Rolex Submariner or Rolex GMT dated June 23, 2018. So guys, if you haven't seen that video, I'll throw a link to that in the description of this video here. Okay. This video resonated with me as I went through a weird purchase experience that I'd like to share with you, if I may. Let me tell you about my story. So sit down, relax, buckle up, kids. It's going to be a story. And should I read it in a French accent? Mon dream watch has always been the Rolex Submariner 16610. No, I think I'll just do this in English. Because most of you people don't speak French. The Rolex Submariner 16610 was Antoine's grail watch. That's a pre-ceramic sub date. Okay, with the aluminum bezel, the tinfoil clasp that I'm not too crazy about, the hollow center links. But hey, that is a vintage classic that was in production for 25 years. As a, end of story. Great watch. I told myself I would buy one when I reach my 30s. Little did I know it would be impossible by then to buy one from the AD. Well, time marches on. Time waits for no man. Tempus fugit, as we say in France. And what happened, Antoine, was I think somewhere right around 2012, they went from the 5-digit Rolex to the 6-digit Rolex. They whapped out that aluminum bezel, and they put on a much more durable ceramic bezel. They beefed up the case, called it the super case. They made the clasp out of milled steel. They put the glide lock clasp on, and no more hollow center links, solid. So just improvement. But hey, look, some people like classic cars, and some people like classic gentlemen. So who am I to complain about age? We like what we like. I'm a fan of the ceramics, but the pre-ceramics do have a big following. Okay, so hence in 2020, early 2020, last year, thankfully last year. Oh God, Happy New Year, guys. Let's move forward and get this economy going again, right? Hence, in early 2020, I bought a pre-owned Rolex Submariner 16610 from a local gentleman. He was originally from Venezuela and immigrated to Canada 4 to 5 years ago as an IT student. Big career change. Canada is a very diverse country filled with immigrants. So cool place. He was a lawyer back there and decided to move to Canada to get a better life for his family. Yeah, because Venezuela basically went to hell in a handbasket. Economy collapsed there, poorly applied, socialism, government supported everything collapses. So it's a real shame for the people there because a lot of suffering. It was good. This guy was able to get out. He was a lawyer and he decided to move to Canada, better life for his family. He had bought a Rolex Sub back in 2001, as this was well seen in his profession. But now, as a newly employed programmer, he wanted to buy a house and needed liquidity. There's a lot of detail here, Antoine. Doesn't matter why he wanted to sell his watch, but okay, let's keep going. So he decided to sell his Rolex Sub. He told me he lost the papers, which is not an unusual thing. Actually, back in the 1980s, 90s, and early 00s, there really wasn't such a collecting passion the way there is now. Social media has just fueled that and made it crazy. So honestly, the whole drive to retain box and papers is a relatively recent phenomenon, I would say, within the last maybe 10 or 15 years. I mean, when I got my first Rolex in 1987, it was a 34 millimeter Rolex date, which I still have. The box was ugly. It was bulky. There was no real reason to save it. And after the warranty was up, the papers were useless too. So at some point or another, I threw them out or lost them in one of the 30 moves that I did between 1987 and now. So yeah, and that's why, guys, in the older watches, the box and papers make that watch a whole lot more valuable because you have provenance and collectors really like that. Hence is why I made that video that I'm throwing the link in the description, how to get a semblance of new box and papers from Rolex. Okay. He told me he lost the papers, but he was pretty sure they were somewhere in his apartment. I inspected the watch and found it was genuine, so I bought it. I'm going to stop right there. You inspected the watch and you found that it was genuine. Well, how did you inspect the watch? How did you know it was genuine? What are your credentials? Antoine, how many Rolexes have you examined in the past? Did you bring a loupe? Do you know what you're looking for? Did you remove the case back? How exactly, in your incredibly, naivete, you didn't even know that they were going to discontinue, the 5 digits. So I'm poking gentle fun at Antoine, but Antoine is very dangerous if you're not a legit expert to be able to separate the men from the boys in terms of a fake or a replica Rolex for a real one. Now, I'm going to make the assumption here that you bought a real Rolex. I certainly hope so. But honestly, between you, me, the lamppost, and everybody watching this video right now, we have no idea. You may very well have purchased a fake. The fakes are done so well that you need to have a very practiced eye, a skilled hand. You really need to know precisely what you're looking for in order to determine if you're dealing with a real watch or not, right, buddy? So let's just hope that you got the real deal. You did not tell me what you paid for it. Sometimes that's a clue, but not always. Okay. But this is a good sign. Back to the letter. A few months later, the gentleman reached out to me to notify me that he had found the papers, but not the boxes. Okay, that's credible. He moved from Venezuela. Why is he going to pack boxes that weren't so important back then? I had given him my address, so he shipped the documents. Well, that was nice of him. Now, the original papers do not match the watch. It meaning the papers. It is for a K serial 16622. Now, a 16622 is a Yachtmaster. Okay, that's an older Yachtmaster hollow center links tinfoil clasp, I believe. So it's for a completely different model watch. He also gave me the original bill of sale from the then Rolex AD, which is not a Rolex AD anymore. I assume this is from Venezuela. You don't say, but I assume so. His name as the original buyer is both on the bill of sale and the Rolex papers, which are the Attestation de Chronomètre Officiel. Pardon my French. I speak Spanish, but hey, doing the best I can here, monsieur. But the date also matches. Little fishy there, mon ami. But the number on the exterior and interior, the dotted punctured number. Like, guys, if you're familiar with the old Rolex papers, he is describing to the T, a 20-some-year-old Rolex. They didn't do, before they did cards, they did a paper, and the serial number of the watch was, punched in punch holes out of the thing. And it is not the same as the one on the watch, obviously, given that it's a 16610. Okay, so getting down to the nitty gritty here finally. So, Mark, I'm not sure what to do here. It seems that the then AD did not give him the correct papers. What should I do with the papers? Should I send them back to Rolex? Let me get through this and then we'll talk about it. Should I send them back to Rolex, or should I contact Rolex to have it replaced by the correct one? I suspect Rolex will never send another official original paper, right? Yes, right. And anyway, I thought I would pick your brain on this one, as you seem really educated on Rolex watches and all. Thank you, Mark. Regards, Antoine Tremblay. Okay, Antoine. So just rolling back the camera here for a quick second. Let's hope that you bought a, like a legit, valid, actual Rolex. You have not had it authenticated in any credible way. So right now, it's a little dicey, in my opinion, as to whether you bought a real one or not. But I'm going to hope so. And I'm going to tell you how to find out for sure as part of the deal that we're discussing here. So first, okay, it's very obvious that this guy, either one of a couple things. Either he owned two Rolexes, meaning that that sub and that Yachtmaster didn't really hardly know anything about watches, didn't track his paperwork or look at it very carefully, and just sent you the wrong legitimate paperwork for a watch that he did own, because got his name on it as the original buyer from the then AD. And in Venezuela, there's probably no ADs left, right? Boy, did they have money back in the day, big oil money. Okay. So the guy buys a pair of Rolexes. You buy the sub. He loses the paperwork to that, or maybe it's still somewhere in his apartment. And he also buys a Yachtmaster. They're both, more or less, generally speaking, from the same era. So that kind of matches up. And he was a big wig over there, and in Venezuela. So he digs out paperwork. He sees Rolex on there. He's like, I owe Antoine some paperwork, so let me just send it off to him. And he accidentally sends you legitimate paperwork for a legitimate Yachtmaster that he either still owns or he sold to somebody else. So who knows? And you have a legitimate Submariner, but with no papers. That is the best possible alternative out of many bad ones. Okay. There are a whole bunch of bad ones possible, but this is the best of the scenarios. Alternatively, he had a couple of fakes, and he just sent you the wrong fake paperwork, because trust me, back in those days, there was a lot of fake paperwork out there that looked exactly like what you're looking at, and you'd be hard pressed to tell it apart. So maybe he just bought fake paperwork and has just sent you the wrong fake paperwork. So now, just to kind of rocket through your questions and then supply an answer as to what should you really do now. What should you do with the papers? Well, they're not worth the paper they're written on. So that paper is fairly useless unless it's useful to somebody else. So what do I mean by that? Like, if the guy still has his Yachtmaster, he should get that paper back. So I'd call and ask him. I might do that, though, after I have this watch authenticated, which I will describe momentarily, because you don't want to do him any favors if he's already ripped you off. So, but theoretically, somewhere out there is that Yachtmaster, and it would be worth a lot more if it was matched with that paper that you're holding, provided they are both real. But to you, it's useless. It's got zero value to you. Should you send them back to Rolex? No, they don't want to hear from you. Rolex does not want to see their 25-year-old real or fake certificate that matches up to absolutely nothing. They do not track that stuff. They do not keep that stuff. So there's no reason for you to send it to Rolex. And where? Rolex, the AD in Venezuela, they're gone. Rolex, the manufacturer in Switzerland, they don't care about this. They don't want it. They don't want to hear from you. This is not me saying this. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you the reality. Boots on the ground here, guy. I'm just telling you how it is. Or should you contact Rolex to have it replaced by the correct one? If you were to make that phone call, no, if you were to do that by email, you would never hear the laughter that you will hear if you make it by phone call. So if you call them, you will hear a great deal of laughter before you hear the inevitable click. So good luck with that one. They don't want to hear from you. They don't. And then he says, I suspect Rolex will never send another official original paper, right? Yes, that is correct. Antoine, you are so naive and sweet. So look, I really hope that you bought a legit watch. And what you ought to do at this point, I think, would be to send it into the Rolex Service Center. I'm sure there's one in Canada. In the United States, there's a couple. There's New York, there's Dallas. or theoretically, you could hunt down a Rolex authorized dealer who is in Canada, who also does Rolex authorized service. So you either want to go direct to the RSC or through an AD. I would more than likely go to the RSC, wherever it is in Canada. Send in the watch, and here's what's going to happen. They're either going to boot it straight. No, actually, if it's a fake, you're probably not even going to get it back. They're going to crush it, and they're going to send you a letter saying, hey, you sent us a fake and you can't have it back because it's illegal. So that's probably what happens with option number one. Option number two is a much happier event, which is to say they service it, they clean it, they do whatever they're going to do to it, which we'll talk about briefly in a second. And they send it back to you in a travel pouch with service papers. This is your best outcome. This is your best outcome. Now, when you send it into the RSC, say your little prayers. Mon Dieu, please let it be real and genuine and not fake. Number one. Number two, send it along with a note. Make sure they understand you do not want it polished. You want it serviced. Let me repeat this in French. Monsieur, you do not want it polished. Do not polish the watch. I put that in French so you would understand. Don't polish the watch. Don't polish. Do not polish the watch. I don't care if it's scratched. I don't care if it's gnarly. Do not polish the watch, okay? Because if they polish the watch, they will grind off the lugs. They will return it to you in much worse condition because it's not supposed to look showroom new. Scratches are the new patina to the collectors. Now we like to see the wear and tear on the watch. We don't really want to see it come back, like all shiny and new, but curved where it's supposed to be straight and blunt and dull where it's supposed to be sharp. So what did I say? Do not polish the watch. But ask them to service it, and then it'll come back with service papers and so forth. So then what do you do about a box? Well, you just go onto eBay and buy a time or period correct box. Be careful with that because there's a lot of fakes with that too. But I don't think that box should cost you more than, I don't know, $150 Canadian. So maybe you'll even find somebody to trade you for it. Maybe they want those Yachtmaster papers and they have a box for, who knows? Anyway, look, that's the long and the short of what you should do. Guys, here's the moral of this story. If you're going to buy used watches, if you're buying 20-year-old watches, especially if you're buying them naked, no box, no papers, you had better know what you're looking at. I wish I knew what you paid for this watch, Antoine, because honestly, if you paid $6,000 Canadian for it early in 2020, then provided it's real, it doesn't matter if there's box and papers. Then you would have gotten a really, really great price. But let's say that you paid $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 Canadian for that watch. No box and papers. You could have got box and papers maybe for that. Or worse yet, what if it's fake? Guys, if you have opinions on this, please put them in the comments. I want to thank you for having been with me. If you've ever had an issue where you've lost the box, lost the papers, found them again, I don't know. Tell me what you think of this entire scenario. Did I give good advice? Thanks for being with me. Please like and subscribe. We're going to do this again soon. This is Goldberg. Peace out.